lead off?
Yeah, sure. Just want to start off by saying congratulations to the women's basketball team and Coach McGuff for a great game last night and moving on to Seattle in the Sweet 16, and then also to Nadine and the women's hockey team for a great season and making it all the way to the national championship game again.
Thank you, Coach. We'll open up the floor for questions. Front row, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, I know it's just 3 days of practice, but can you get into the competition at center and right tackle? Vic and Carson at center, and then Tegra and Zen at right tackle.
First day in pads today. I'll get on the film and take a look at it. I think so far I've been impressed with the way Carson's come out and competed early on. Vic is learning the offense. I think he would tell you that. Practicing every day at Ohio State is something that he's adjusting to, but has ability, has athleticism, got a great attitude. So I think we'll see the best football out of him as we get closer to the middle of spring practice. But so far I've been pretty pleased with what's going on at center.
Right tackle?
Yeah, right tackle. It's still too hard to tell, I think, there. Again, it's our first day in pads, so it's going to be hard to really give you a lot of evaluation. We'll get going with a bunch of inside drill on Thursday and probably get after it in a little bit of a scrimmage setting on Saturday at times. So I think coming off the week, we'll have a better feel for it. But so far, there's been some good things. There's been some things that we want to get better at, certainly. But we'll take a look at the film today with the pads on, because when we don't have pads on, it's very difficult. I think guys have to take care of each other, learn how to practice without pads the first 2 days, but had them on today, and there was a lot of good things out there.
Right behind him, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Right. These first two practices, are these guys, other guys in the secondary that have maybe stood out to you, and how do you taper that with also these got two quarterbacks who are trying to battle for a starting job here?
It's hard right now to say who was really standing out, but I think Denzel and Jordan and Davidson's been in there. Jair, they've got their hands on balls. I think just as a group right now, they're competing, they're challenging. And I don't think we could ask for a better start of spring practice coming off the first 3 days. So we'll see as we get towards the middle. Like I said, I can probably give you a better evaluation as we get closer to the middle of spring practice and then towards the end of where guys are at. But I just like their attitude. I like their competitiveness. It's a bunch of guys working on the perimeter every day, and that's what we want. We want to be really competitive this spring in everything we do. And as we get going here with the pads, we'll be in more winner-loser situations, and that's what we want.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, the first day we did this, I asked you about your two transfer defensive backs, Jihad and Davidson. I'm curious, now that you've seen them in the building a bit more, how they're fitting in, what you like about what they've brought so far.
Yeah, I think they are fitting in well. When you come to Ohio State, you don't just jump into that locker room and think that you're going to get the respect of the teammates just because you're walking into the locker room. You have to earn it. I think both of them have done that through, winter workouts, mat drills, and now into the third day of practice. They've worked. I think that anytime you're in that type of situation, you have to kind of work your way into it. You kind of, you're seen before you're heard. And they're doing that right now. Again, where does it go into practice 7, 8, 9, 10? We'll see. But so far, I've been pleased with not only their attitudes, but their ability to help us this upcoming season.
Right next door, Andy Andrews, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
So obviously a big part of the spring too is evaluating Brian Hartline as a play caller. You talked about putting him in those situations in practice. But when you're evaluating someone as a play caller, how do you go about that? Is it maybe like having a cheat sheet of plays that should be called in certain situations? Is it just letting him call plays and seeing the success of those plays? What is that evaluation process?
Yeah, you don't really know until you get into a game how that works. But we're going to try this these next couple of weeks to try to get some game type situations and get that going. But a big part of it right now in the first 10 practices is installing his fundamentals, and then we try to start playing the game more. But when you don't have red zone and third down, short yardage, those type of situations it's hard to get into those type of game situations. So we'll typically script a lot of what we do, and we're only into day 3 here. And today was our first day in pads coming off of spring break. So we've been pretty basic. We're really working on fundamentals, hand placement, pad level, those type of things, ball security. And then as we get into more situational stuff, then we have our full game plan and we can get into that stuff. So, and the best you can do is just kind of get out there and call it and just see what happens and try to change the situation the best you can. But you don't quite really get a feel for it till you're in a game.
Front row, middle, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, what are you looking to see out of Saturday scrimmage? I know we're a couple days away. We don't talk to you until then, but what do you want to see out of the scrimmage? Do you have any idea how it's going to be formatted and all that?
No, what we're going to talk about it as a staff in terms of exactly how we're going to do it. We'll see how we come out of Thursday. That's a big part of it too, is the injuries and how many guys we have at what positions. We'll try to figure out how many reps we want to get each guy, but we want to tackle to the ground and with certain guys. One thing about spring practice, the more you think about it, and with COVID and everything that's gone on the last couple of years, you have guys who've been in the program for 4 years or 5 years. Then you have guys who should be finishing up their senior year of high school. So you have different variety of experiences and age groups. So trying to figure out what's right for each guy is where, this time of year, you got to do a great job of. Some guys have played a bunch of football. They've had, thousands of snaps in games. Other guys have never done it before. So what we want to do is get a lot of those younger guys a bunch of game reps, see who can tackle, see who's going to make plays, give them an opportunity to go put it on the field. So we'll be very basic in what we're doing schematically, but just allow them to go play and then grade the film and see where we're at.
To clarify earlier, as far as Brian calling plays in kind of game-like settings, does that include Saturday scrimmage?
We haven't really talked about it, but yeah, probably we'll kind of put a little game plan together and let them call and see how it goes.
Back row, Bill Landis, Rivals, the podcast.
Ryan, you talked about quarterback creativity and play extension and how important that can be. How much does that factor into your evaluations right now? And how do you get a good evaluation of that in a controlled practice setting when the quarterbacks aren't live and the pass rush isn't exactly what they've experienced when they've been?
The evaluation of the quarterbacks? The best I can tell you, it's a great question, is just based on experience. Trying to, compare and contrast based on quarterbacks we've had in the past, what it's looked like, the decision-making process, trying to put them in as many game-like situations as possible. A third down, red zone. But to be honest with you, you really don't know until you get into a game. You don't, I was talking to CJ about it out there. He was at practice and, that first Minnesota game, what that was like and the ups and downs of that one. And a big part of it is getting your confidence. But I think you want to identify the things they do well and then really emphasize those and then recognize what the areas that they need to be improved and try to make sure that we're addressing those and just try to get the guys better every day. And over time, it seems to always kind of shake itself out. But we're into day 3 and there was some good things out there today.
When you have to, I guess, have that projection kind of baked in that you don't know until a game is in front of you. Does that sit in the back of your mind? Okay,
Yeah.
Am I really making the right choice without knowing what these guys are going to look like when it's live action?
Yeah. You never know. You try to do the best you can. And, when you have somebody that's played a whole year, you certainly sleep a little bit better at night. When you have somebody who hasn't, then you don't. But that's college football. And I think it's been exciting to develop young quarterbacks and new quarterbacks here the last couple of years, when you had Justin and, even Dwayne, that was his first year playing, and then CJ 2 years ago. But the frustrating thing is you only get them for a couple of years and then they move on to the NFL. But that's a good problem to have.
Right next door, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Road.
Right, it seems like you guys know exactly what you have with Ty and Mike and Tyleek in the middle there. But then beyond those guys, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of experience. What do you need to see from those guys behind him, Hero, even JD, those guys, to know that you guys are set at defensive tackle heading into this time?
Yeah, you need them to flash. You need them to make plays. You need them to get off of blocks. Consistency over a whole spring. I think that's one of the things about playing in the D-line that's probably talked about, not enough is, the sustaining a certain level of play for an extended period of time, plays 7, 8, 9 of a drive, playing into the fourth quarter. And you want to see the ability of guys to make plays and flash, and that's great. But can you consistently put days back to back? Can you consistently put plays back to back over time? And that's what we need. We need to see that consistency.
Over here to the right, Justin Bulbrock, WCMH.
Jim said when we talked to him 4 weeks ago that he shifted his focus from teaching to competition this spring. Have you seen that manifest itself? And if you haven't yet, what are you looking for in those terms? what you want to see from competition that he's going to provide your offense?
Yeah, we're trying to find as many ways that we can to create winner or loser situations. We're starting practice right after stretch with winner or loser situations. As the pads are on, we're going to find as many ways as possible to do that. Because I think, we all work hard, and working hard gives us a chance. But the difference between that and competing is there's a winner and a loser every time you compete. So, year one, on defense, installing it, trying to install the defense and get it taught, make sure you know what you're doing. And now it's more of an emphasis on how to do it, except for the younger guys. But for the older guys now, we have a bunch of experience coming back there, which is great. But how many times can we put them in competitive situations to go play? And that's what we're trying to do, whether it's at a position or as an offense and defense.
I'm curious about Pro Day and what you feel your role is on that day. Is it schmoozing scouts? Is it answering their questions? Is it trying to calm your guys down? And additionally, and how much does that day mean to the overall evaluation? Because there comes a time, and the ones I've been to, when the quarterbacks start throwing, it's kind of a hush, and you can just feel the tension. And it's like, this is an important point or whatever.
Yeah, I think for us, the last couple of years, we've been able to have some of our younger guys participate to help out. So last year, for instance, CJ, threw to Chris and to Garrett. And so he actually got an opportunity to experience what that was like. We played some music to kind of do what you're talking about, and kind of, that, kind of quiet, awkward tension in the room, just try to get rid of that, because the whole thing of it is just to play loose and have fun. And that's what we try to talk to our guys about, So in terms of our role, I think we just want to provide them whatever they need. It's their day, to try to, highlight what they do best. And with all the different people we come in, we meet with them. We'll have a meeting with everybody who's in attendance, and then a lot of one-off conversations and meetings. Yeah, we do that. And I talk to them, Mick talks to them, and we just, answer any questions that they may have about our players. Most of them do such a great job. They know so much about our gritty. They have the combine interviews, but we're just here to advocate and provide information and make sure they have a great day, so that they're putting their best foot forward.
One other Tim May quickie. If CJ killed it at the combine, does he really need to throw here?
It's a piece of the puzzle. I think every time you do something, it's a little piece, but I think you watch what he did this season. You watch the way he played the Georgia game. You get a chance to see, at the combine, the way he throws the ball. But I think most teams know what he can do. But it's another piece of the puzzle, and it's a great opportunity for teams to get out here and see him live and in color and see him throw it. It's good. I know as a quarterback, I always wanted to see what it looked like coming off the hand, and everybody got a chance to do that at the combine, and then I'll get a chance to do that on Wednesday, because that's tomorrow. Yeah.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, the podcast.
Ryan, we've seen, how successful your offense has been with the 2 tight end personnel grouping out there. We know that you've got Cade coming back. I would assume that it's Joe and G sort of leading the battle there elsewhere. How do you see that shaking up throughout spring? What do they need to do? I know the pads just came on today.
Yeah. Well, they both have to be able to play in 11 personnel, which means they have to be able to go run routes and get open against, safeties and nickels. But they also have to go in there and block 7 techniques in 11 personnel. In the 12 personnel, we have the Y and the H, and the Y does a little bit more of the heavy lifting. The H is sometimes a little bit more off the ball and does a little bit more off the ball type stuff. You saw Mitch do that a little bit last year. You saw Ruck do that the year before when we had Luke, Luke Farrell. So Cade shown that he can do both. And, we're looking for the rest of those tight ends to do is be able to show that. I think Keenan's off to a great start with that group, and hopefully, we can keep growing on that and replace Mitch.
The fullback position going to be dead? You can't find somebody to do what Mitch did?
It's going to be interesting. We have a couple ideas on that. We've tossed around the idea of some different ideas, and we'll kind of see where it goes, but we have some good thoughts.
Fourth row right, Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, you mentioned you want to see, you really learn a lot from these quarterbacks when you get them in a game. What do you look at in a scrimmage? I mean, it's the best chance you have now to put a game situation together.
I've been talking to our guys about making the routine plays routinely. with our players and the skill that we have, we don't need an extraordinary stuff. We need people to take care of the football. We need them to, if the first read's there, take it. If not, work on to 2-3, and then have a plan from there. Make good decisions on a run game, take care of the football, and lead the offense. If you're going to turn the ball over, it's not going to go well here. And so we've got to take care of the ball, but you also know we're going to be aggressive. And that's not just easy to see. It's a lot easier to say, well, take care of the football, but we also want to go score a bunch of touchdowns. So there's that balance that you have to find. And, some guys can find that easier than others. We've been fortunate enough to find the guys that get a feel for that. It's probably a big part of the it factor that people talk about, seeing the field and understanding situations. But the more game-like situations we can create, the more we get a feel for that, and certainly taking care of the football and making routine plays routinely is important.
So the game is different than a scrimmage, and you have all the pressure, everything going on. But when it comes to the quarterbacks, you still evaluate them the same way in scrimmages as you would in the game, or is that different for you?
No, I think it's the way that the game is played. You have practice and preparation that leads up to a game, and then you have to go put it on the field. I think that it's kind of like that in the spring and the preseason, where you have your practices during the week and you're making evaluations every day. But, one drill could be, team run and play action pass, and you're specifically working on that and you're getting better at that. But that's very focused on that specific situation. When you're playing in a game, it goes from first down to second down to third. And if you're not staying on schedule on first and second down and finding that check down or being able to, create a play on third down, you just don't know that until you're in those type of situations. So it's one thing just to play one play. It's another thing to understand how that play is going to affect that drive and ultimately the game.
Front row, right in front of him, Tony German, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, other than quarterback, what position or position group comes into your mind the most? Are you thinking about the most right now?
Probably offensive line, and then probably the secondary, just in general, just where that's at. I will say this again. I like the way the corners are playing. You'll see how the safeties did today, but depth in the D line. It's good to get a couple guys out there now that Tommy's not going to be practicing here this spring, to get some other guys going at linebacker. But those are the areas that we got to really do a great job with.
The offensive line, is there a danger of being too optimistic as a head coach about a position group?
Well, you just have to evaluate for what it is. You have to identify, and you have to be real. You can't be fake in this game. The players know it, the coaches know it. So, sometimes you can feel like we're riding a guy, or we're really negative on someone who's a really good player, and they can call that out. Or if you're wrong in your evaluation and you think someone's better than they are, then it's going to get you beat down the road. So you just got to do a great job of communicating and identifying what you think it is in the evaluation.
Front row, again, Doug Lane-Reese, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, how the different quarterbacks you've had here, from JT to Dwayne to Justin to CJ, how has your view of the quarterback position evolved in your time here? Or with the Ryan Day who showed up the first day you were here in 2017, talk about what you need to do to be a successful quarterback the same way that you talk about it today?
Probably. I think the game is changing, but to your point, I don't think that what you look for in a quarterback really has. You have to be able to do stuff with your feet. You have to be able to create a little bit, in and out of the pocket. You have to at least be a threat in the run game. That has to be a part of what you do. I think it's important to do that, but you also have to be able to throw the football in the pocket on third down in the red zone. Be able to push the ball down the field and play action pass. So I think all those things are important on the field, and then the leadership part of it is critical. So no, I don't think that's changed. But I do think the more you look at the quarterbacks who are making it in the NFL and at the highest level of college football, they can move their feet. They can create, they can extend plays. Just thinking about the playoffs in college, thinking about the playoffs in the NFL. Almost all those guys could do that. I think that's important. But I think we talked about that, probably 5, 10, 20 years ago. But I think more and more it's becoming part of the reality.
In the NFL, if you draft a young guy, you might have him for a decade.
Yeah.
You can build an offense around that guy. Like, hey, maybe it's not what I would normally do, but we're locked into this guy. Here, as you said, you get a year or two. What is the right balance of, you said you always wanted to bring up the strengths of a quarterback. What's the balance of an Ohio State quarterback has to do this versus, well, this guy's got these skills, we can adjust a little bit. And do you adjust less because it's going to be a constant churn, where in the NFL, you could adjust and then keep that adjustment for a decade?
Yeah, I think the first thing is they have to be able to compete. They have to be high competitors because of what it takes to be the quarterback at Ohio State. You have to be highly competitive. I think the other thing is you're looking for some sort of extraordinary trait. When you think about the different quarterbacks we've had, even just going back to, with Braxton and Cardell, JT, Dwayne, Justin, CJ, when Joe was here, I mean, they all had extraordinary traits. And I think that's important. And then you try to, emphasize those traits.
You don't have to tell us. Do you think you have identified the extraordinary traits of Devin and Kyle, or are you still looking?
No, I think that they're starting to take shape. Yeah, I think that they're doing a good job. I think the one thing that I can appreciate about both of them is their work ethic, their intelligence level. And it's been fun to get out there and see them now take the reps with the ones. Because when you're taking reps with the twos and the threes, it's a little bit different, especially in season. But now they're getting thrushed up there and pushed up there, and we'll see as we continue to go. We haven't even put third down in yet. We haven't put any of that stuff in, so we'll see. But so far, I kind of like their mentality, and I think that the team, believes in them, and I think that's important as well.
Front row right, Tim May, Letterman row.
Yeah, I don't mean to follow up on all this like Bill and Doug's questions and stuff, but when you put my eyes in your head, or vice versa, when you're out there in a practice play, how are you watching it from the quarterback standpoint? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, are they seeing what I'm seeing? I mean, give me kind of a sense of that.
Well, you're looking for timing. I think that's first thing. Is the timing right? And you're looking at their eyes. Where are they looking? I think that's very, very important. And then if their eyes and their feet are right, is the ball coming out where it's supposed to be on time? And when it goes exactly as planned, can we make the play? Okay, that's the first thing. Yes or no. If they can't make the play when everything goes exactly the way you design it, that's not good. If you draw the play up and it doesn't go exactly the way you plan, is there a plan B? Which is, not throwing it there if it wasn't, designed perfectly right, or maybe the coverage is a little bit different, where, they can recognize, okay, this isn't exactly how we talked about it, or this is a dangerous situation. Now here comes plan B, because, it's their job to make it right. And that's part of playing the quarterback position. And so, the more times that you can make bad plays right, the better off you're going to be in this game. And I think you can see that at all levels. But you also have to make the routine plays routinely, and that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah. In other words, there's always an answer in a play.
Exactly.
Usually. And one of the quickie, as you've gotten to, and I asked you this the other day, but as you've gotten to roam, for want of another term, what have you noticed about the Jim Knowles defense that you didn't maybe catch on to last year? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, is there something you're kind of like getting a feel for what he's thinking? I mean, just what's that been like, I guess?
Yeah, it's been fun to watch him work. It's been fun to see how, I could tell, he gets to a certain point where he wants to get enough reps of a defense over and over again against all the different formations, all the different looks. And then when it gets to a certain point, then he feels comfortable. Okay, this thing's going to get game ready. I can call this in a game. But if it hasn't had as many reps, it's not ready yet. It kind of stays over here. And so it's my job as a head coach to make sure we have enough plays where he's getting what he needs to make sure the guys understand that enough, see the different ways that our offenses are going to attack them so that it can be game ready.
One play hall quickie. Back to the quarterbacks. Do you notice when a guy has gotten comfortable wearing the black jersey, meaning I'm not going to get hit? You understand? I mean, how much do you factor that into as you're evaluating their boldness?
Well, I like when they get into the games, as a backup, to kind of get whacked a little bit. I always try to get them into, even if they're maybe not a quarterback that, is going to do a lot of quarterback running. I've always tried to have a couple where, they're pulling the ball and they get smacked or some sort of an out of pocket pass in those games, just to try to see them take that shot, because like you said, in practice, they don't get hit like that. So, but that's another part of it that you can't really predict other than what you see.
Thanks. Front row, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Another quarterback thing. I'll ask what Doug didn't want to ask. What are the extraordinary traits that you've seen from Devin and Kyle?
I probably won't get into that right now, but probably wait till we get to a little bit midway through, or maybe towards the end of spring, and kind of see where it goes. Because they're going to be there'd be a lot of eyeballs on them, and I think it's good for them to just continue to work and put days on top of days and see where it goes. And one of my suggestions to them is don't get done with practice and start, sticking your nose in Twitter and everything like that. Not that there's a lot of evaluations week in and week out, but even after Saturday, I think for quarterbacks, what they have to do is just continue to stay hungry and just keep working and not, listen to the noise, because there's going to be a lot of that, especially when you're at Ohio State as a quarterback. So the least amount that I can say, the better for them.
So that didn't count as a question, so I can ask another one. Completely different. You
guys are going to owe Jerry some beers, I think, after this.
You had Big Ten
Old-fashioned
meetings with coaches, right?
Yeah.
What came out of that you can share in terms of maybe scheduling or just anything else that happened there?
Yeah, good conversation about exactly what you're saying. As we go into 24, things are changing, and what does that mean for the conference in terms of the scheduling? There's still a lot to be decided there. But as we go into, going away from divisions and all those types of conversations, there's a lot to be worked out. Certainly with the playoffs and the conference games, and so a lot of back and forth. I thought it was great. We talked about some rule changes and those type of things. So, I think we have our regular meetings, our regular meeting on Zoom, I think maybe next week planned. And so we'll continue that cadence of working with the conference. But I'll say this about the Big Ten coaches: a lot of respect for the guys that are in that room, a lot of experience, really good football coaches. And so even just to be in there and listen to others talk, was really good.
Right behind him, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, they released the new assistant coaching contracts last week, and we saw the raise that Tim Walton got, but we're also told that there was a change in his title to defensive passing game quarter. Just curious, is there a structural change that goes along with that, and is that taking anything off of Jim's plate? How does that work?
Just wanted to try to find as many ways to have the secondary meet together, to tie in the safeties and the corners, which Tim and Perry were great with, and so was Jim. And so anytime you do that, you just have to make sure you delineate, how things are going to go in terms of chain of command. But Tim's experience speaks for itself, and not much is going to change, but they are going to do some more meeting together as a group. And I felt like it was appropriate to kind of put that that job description for Tim, and so he'll kind of run with it, and then hopefully we can get everybody on the same page before sometimes we leave meetings and then it goes into individual meetings, because there's pluses and minuses to both. And I think Jim does a great job with the unit meeting, and both coaches do a great job individually, but I think there's times where they all need to be together in a room just to communicate and hear things from one voice.
And last year, that assistant salary pool, we believe, was the biggest in the country, and it looks like it might be again this year. Is that something that's important to you? Does that have not to mix my terms, but a currency when you're out in recruiting or talking to other coaches?
Well, we always feel like we should have the best at Ohio State, and we can attract the best. And with the board and with Gene's support, we've been able to do that. And, they deserve to be compensated that way, and try to go to bat for the guys. They work really hard, and so we'll continue to do that. But just like anywhere else, we expect to be the best in the country and everything. And so we're fortunate enough to be able to get the best.
Time for two more. Third row, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, you mentioned CJ participating in Pro Day last year. Are any of the current players this year going to be participating in Pro Day?
Yes, yeah, there's going to be a few. I know that receiver, I'm pretty sure that Marvin, Xavier, Jaden Ballard is going to work out. I don't know exactly all of them, but I'm pretty sure those three are going to help with CJ.
What do you think those guys can get out of that experience?
Yeah, kind of what we've done in the past, where I believe Garrett and Chris helped work out with, and maybe even Jackson helped out with Justin a couple of years ago, and then CJ helped out with the guys last year, and maybe even I think Cade might be catching some passes for him. It'll work out at tight end, but I think it just allows them the opportunity to get a feel for what that's like. Like Clay was mentioning, sometimes it can be kind of awkward just kind of being out there and running routes and catching, but just relaxing, getting a feel for it. So when they do it next year, it won't be the first time.
And final questions, second row left, Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, maybe this is better for Coach Knowles, but his defense, 3 safeties and 2 corners predominantly. Is there a school of thought that when it is a 3rd and long, it's a passing situation, could you be better served to put a corner in and take one of the safeties out? Because some of the big hits in those situations have come against safeties kind of put in tough cover situations. Maybe it's been depth at corner that you haven't had. I don't know, but is there any discussion about that maybe what's good for 1st and 2nd down may not be the best for 3rd down?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I think that what we're looking for in that nickel position is different than the safety position. So we have our 2 safeties, and then we have that nickel. That nickel really should be similar to a corner. So I think that's important. But I do think, to your point, there are some situations, especially on 3rd down, where if we feel like we have our best or 3rd best cover guy, if we have that, which with all of our injuries last year, to your point, I don't think we ever really got able to go down that road. Yeah, Tanner was kind of there, and then Cam got hurt, so we didn't quite have the opportunity to do that. But yeah, on 3rd down, bringing in your best cover guy definitely makes sense. And then also maybe on 3rd long, taking out one of your linebackers and going to a dime package is certainly something that we'll be considering.
Coach, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Okay,
Thanks, Ryan.
great day.